right now. Hello and welcome to today's office hours presentation. This is Paul Hoyt. I want to welcome you to today's office hours presentations. Our office hours presentation is a relaxed, informal mentoring program that we hold every Monday at noon Pacific time. All the recordings, slides, and exercises are archived in our members areas, and all recordings are available on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/Paul Hoyt. The reasons we do the office hours presentations is because we know that being a successful business owner can be a great experience, but we also know that it's tough, that you need the education, training, tools, and teamwork in order to be successful. And we want you to get to know us, because when you get to know us, you'll know that first and most importantly, we really do care about you. We want you to be successful in every area of your life, whatever that means to you. We want you to find the greatness, the happiness, the divinity within yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every single day as we do. Our passion is to increase the survival rate, accelerate the growth rate, and reduce the struggle rate of businesses in America. And our vision is to help millions of CEOs and entrepreneurs accelerate their business growth while enjoying greater harmony and balance in their lives. If you find these office hours presentations to be valuable, please pass the word. You all know somebody who runs a business. You might just ask them to tune in to one of our presentations, or let them be aware of all the great amount of information that we have available on our YouTube channel and on our website. With office hours presentations, we offer an in-depth discussion of a business success principle, then some closing remarks, an occasional special offer on products and services we offer, and an invitation for next week's sessions, and then we go into open Q&A and coaching. So as we're making the presentation today, we invite you to take a pencil or a piece of paper and write down any questions or discussion topics that you might want to offer at the end of the presentation. And for those of you who are joining us live and online, you can type in your questions or comments into the question box, into the chat log in the GoToWebinar control panel. We also invite you to join us with the Awakened CEO communities on both LinkedIn and Facebook. For 4 days a week, I do a business success principle of the day posting on Facebook and LinkedIn, and every single morning I do an energy of the day posting on Facebook. I think we're up to 844 days in a row of me getting up in the morning and trying to say something insightful or inspirational to just add a little positive energy to the lives of everyone who I know. Today's topic is how to define and manage your company culture. We always relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of the key performance areas of success that I defined in my book that I wrote in 2004 called The Foundation Factor. And defining and managing your company culture is all about leadership. It's the responsibility of the CEO of the company, of the executives of the company, to define and manage company culture. We're going to talk a lot more about that in just the next few minutes. We also relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of the levels of performance that we define with the Awakened CEO system. There are 3 levels: mindset, methods, and momentum, and today's presentation is going to talk about every single one of them. So it's important for you to have your mind on the right page, get your perspective and attitudes right, important for you to implement great methods, and important for you to establish momentum when it comes to implementing your company culture too. We try to offer ourselves as the how-to people. We really want you to know how to implement change in your business and how to transform your business. And this happens at 3 different levels. You need to know what to do, which is getting the right education. You need to know how to do it, which is the training, the step-by-step process by which you implement the knowledge in your business. And then you actually have to do the work. And doing the work does involve work on 3 different levels: on the level of mindset, getting your beliefs and perspectives squared away; on the level of methods, making sure that you have great plans, processes, and procedures in place; and most importantly of all, on the level of momentum, which means taking action, repeated action over time, accelerating your velocity and accelerating your momentum. In our agenda today, we're going to talk about the importance of company culture. We're going to talk about what is the company culture. We're going to offer the 8 different steps on how to define and manage your company culture, and then we're going to sum it all up with the bottom line. First, let's talk about the importance of company culture. The importance of company culture is that Having a well-defined, consistent culture can result in reduced turnover and a lot better morale. Because when people know what is expected with a consistent culture, they feel a little bit safer. And cultural consistency means greater predictability, which means greater safety in the minds of the people you're working with. And a team of like-minded people works better together than a team of people who have an inconsistent and chaotic company culture. With company culture, when people feel safer, there's less stress and better morale means greater productivity because high-performing teams have greater collaboration and mutual support. So that's the premise. That is my belief, and I think it's backed up with a lot of different studies, is that if you have a well-defined, consistent company culture, you're going to have better performance from your team. Now, of course, if your company culture is one of everybody's lazy and everybody breaks the rules and everybody, nobody shows up on time, and you have a consistent culture of ineffectiveness and lack of performance, then that's not a good thing. What we really want is a consistent culture of cheerfulness, of eagerness, of high energy, of enthusiasm, of helping each other, etc. So what is your company culture? Your company culture are these 8 things: your your vision, your values, and your beliefs, your work schedule, your business processes, your dress code, the way that you manage meetings, it's performance management, compensation and benefits, conflict management, and those 8 things together form what we call the energy signature of your business. Let's talk about each one of these elements one at a time. First, your vision, your values, and your belief. Your vision is a clear statement of the company that you are creating. Your values are the principles of thought and action and feelings by which you do everything, and your beliefs are your foundational personal and spiritual truth. It's an important aspect of your company culture for the leaders of the company to define what their vision is. The vision is, of course, the company that they want to create, and communicate that so that everybody knows that we want to be the premier landscaping company in Salt Lake City, that we want to be a company that offers world-class consulting services to entrepreneurs around the world. We want to be the #1 premier provider of dental services in our particular community. Whatever your vision is for your company, that is the cornerstone of your company culture. Then we oftentimes suggest that you define and communicate your values as well. We believe in being high integrity. We believe in being honorable. We believe in treating our customers well. We believe in taking care of each other. All of those are company values that you can define and communicate. And then your beliefs. We believe in the greatness that's within every person. We believe in that every person has the opportunity to tap into their greatness, to be independent of other things happen in their lives. We believe that we should be supportive and caring of each other, etc. So a very important aspect of your company culture is your opportunity to define your vision, your values, and your belief systems, and then communicate them with everybody at your company. Another aspect of company culture is work schedules. You may find that your company has a very rigid or very flexible work schedule. And in some business models, by the way, they really do require a much more rigid work schedule than other companies do. For example, if you have a production line, if you have an assembly line, where it's important for everybody to show up at exactly the same time so that because everybody works with each other, or in the case of an assembly line, is I do my job and then the part flows to you, and you have to be standing at your workstation at the right time. That you really do have to have rigid schedules in the case of an assembly line, or in the transportation industry, or in a seasonal industry. Anything that requires the immediate communication, cooperation, collaboration of the workers means that you have to have a fairly rigid work schedule. But a lot of businesses are not that way. You can have a flexible work schedule. In fact, many of them have flex time, where, hey, we want you here between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. each day, but whether you show up at 8 a.m. or whether you work until 5, or whether you show up at 10 and work until 7, we really don't care. You get to decide whether you have a rigid or a flexible work schedule at your business. Some businesses work weekends, some businesses work a lot of overtime, some businesses work holidays and vacations. Hospitals, the police department, the fire department, a lot of customer care organizations work holidays and vacations and may work a lot of overtime, and some of them may be on call as well. Many people out there will carry a pager. Doctors, I mean, you can have a very high level of education and a lot of income and still have times where it's necessary for you to be on call because of the people that you serve and the way that you serve them. Your work schedules do make up a lot of your company culture. Another aspect of company culture is your business processes. They can be very precise or very flexible. Some businesses have very, very specific business processes, and a deviation from the process can cause a lot of damage to the business and a lot of challenges to the customers. You may be formal or informal. You may have formal checklists that people need to fill out every single day, or you may just have business processes that are oral tradition and that people kind of learn, but they're never really documented or written down anywhere. I'm a person who loves written processes. My experience is that when you document your existing business process, you can find ways to improve that process. I spent maybe the first 10 or 20 years of my career helping companies define their business processes and turning them into computer systems, into information systems. And what we almost always found was that when we documented the business process, we found ways to improve that process before we automated that process through the implementation of a computer system. And a big part of the business processes is your focus on quality assurance and quality control. With some companies, they don't focus a lot on that. People just kind of do their own thing, and there's no real oversight or control of that. And some companies, quality control, quality assurance is everything. They found out that quality is indeed free, and that if you put appropriate measures in place to control the quality of the products and services as they are being created and as they're being delivered, and put quality assurance techniques into place to make sure that you're monitoring the quality of the processes, is that it really does save you money and make you money in the long run. And that's certainly my belief as well. So I always encourage people to put some level of quality control in place. Here at my company, at the Hoyt Management Group, we have a quality control process that says that we review each other's work. We call it polishing. So before we send out an important email, before we send out an important newsletter, before we send out anything to our client base, Stephanie and I always take the opportunity to polish each other's work. And at a minimum, we encourage you to implement that business process at your work. And where it really makes sense to actually implement physical checklists and to focus on those every single day. If it's important that the job get done and get right on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, if missing a step can cause you considerable issues, then eliminate that possibility. Have a checklist, go over the checklist, have another person check the checklist to make sure things are being done right. Another aspect of company culture is the dress code. At some companies, shorts and t-shirts are just fine. In fact, that might be part of the dress code. If you run, for example, a water park, or you run something that's extremely informal, you might say that, hey, wear whatever you want, flip-flop, shorts, t-shirt, that's all okay. It doesn't make any difference. But other companies may require hard hat and safety glasses. I worked in the manufacturing industry for about 20 years, and at many of those industries, you had to have a hard hat on and you had to have a safety glasses on before you took any sort of step into the shop environment. And of course, any sort of construction environment typically requires hard hat and safety glasses too. Some companies may require uniforms, that we wear a polo shirt or we wear a more formal dress as well. Some companies are business casual, while other companies require suits and ties, and even the companies that require something more formal may have casual Fridays in place. I remember working for EDS in the 1990s, and part of their dress code was suit and tie, every single day, that all of the men had to wear white shirts and a tie. They preferred either a black suit or a blue suit. They didn't like brown suits. And strangely enough, at that company, is that you were only allowed to take off your suit jacket when you were at your desk. It was really unusual. So anytime that you got up from your desk to go to a meeting, to go to the break room, to go down the hall to take care of your personal needs, you had to wear your suit jacket. And the reason was because their formal culture was that they invited people, their customers and their prospects, to come and tour their office buildings, and they wanted to send the image that we know what we're doing. We really mean business here at EDS, and everybody means business, and I think they did a very effective job at doing that for a long, long time, until our entire society became a little bit more casual. Was in a workshop last week where one of the persons lamented that casual Fridays took away a tremendous amount of the productivity at the company that they were at. And that may be true as well at your company. So I urge a little bit of caution on casual Fridays. But if you find that you need a little increase on the morale and a little increase in the teamwork, you may find that casual Fridays really does that, because it lets people be more real. It lets them be themselves a little bit more. Maybe it bonds the people together a little bit more when people are having Aloha Friday and everybody wears their Hawaiian shirts to work on Friday. I think in some cases it can detract from the productivity, and in some cases it can really increase the productivity. Just one word of caution: if you decide to go to casual Fridays, it's almost impossible or very, very difficult to go back to requiring a more business dress, especially a more formal dress on Fridays. You'll find a lot of disgruntled people who really enjoy wearing their business casual or their casual clothes on Friday. Dress codes always present some kind of challenges, and there are 3 of them that we want to talk about. First of all, there's a challenge with suggestive dress. Every once in a while somebody will wear something into the office that's just not appropriate because it's very distracting to other people. Usually it's the ladies, but every once in a while it's the men as well. And then stepping into your responsibility as CEO and leader and having that tough conversation with them is something that you really have to do. We also see some interesting things with religious preferences, with some people that really part of their religion is I don't cut my hair, or I just wear a beard all the time, or I wear a turban or a hijab. Because we live in a very ecumenical society here in the United States, it's important for us to allow people the opportunity to express their religious preference, to adhere to their specific religious code through their dress. And it can be somewhat tough for managers to deal with that, but again, you need to deal with that and deal with it effectively. And occasionally we see somebody that's way too casual. We started business casual Friday, but somebody's showing up with a tank top and flip-flops, and you have to have conversations with them as well. My advice to you, by the way, is if you find yourself in any one of these situations, is be sure to check in with your state, because the state is primarily the governmental agency that regulates the manner in which you can have conversations with people about suggestive dress, about religious preference dress, and about way too casual dress. So make sure that you understand what you can say and what you can't say, what you can do and what you can't do, before you go to have those conversations with your employees and even your contractors. And if you need to get an HR consultant on your team, I certainly recommend that you do that, so that they can help you in having those discussions, so that you don't make a mistake like firing somebody because they wore a beard and it turns out that that was their religious preference, or strongly recommending that some young lady remove her hijab or her burqa because that turns out to be her religious preference. You do have some leniency, especially if your company has a uniform policy. You have some leniency in all of these different ways, but you do have to be consistent, and you do have to check with HR consultants or your state before having those tough conversations with your employees. Another aspect of company culture is meeting management. You can have casual meetings or formal meetings. The meetings can be short or long. The meetings can be standing or sitting. I know companies that have employed a standing meeting concept. It says that, unless it really is something that is out of the unusual, we don't hold meetings for more than 15 minutes, and everybody stands at our meetings to make sure that they are very focused and on point, and we don't just ramble and waste company time. In meetings, you may have agendas, and you may type up the minutes to the meeting and distribute them after the meeting is over. Or you may have, less formal processes. I'm a big fan, by the way, of agendas and meetings. And here at our company, we offer a lot of our coaching clients, the opportunity to have meetings and to offer them minutes and sample forms that they can use for agendas for their meetings and for taking minutes of those meetings. In fact, every Monday morning, Stephanie and I have a staff meeting, and it's a formal meeting. We have a very specific agenda that we go through, and we always take minutes and notes of the meetings and publish them so that we remind each other what is being said. We find that we are more productive and more accountable if we take minutes to our meetings and publish them. Another aspect of company culture is performance management. You can have a formal or an informal performance management system at your company where there are set times for evaluations and set times for raises and promotions and discussions on those topics. My suggestion is that you have 90-day performance reviews and an annual compensation review. If you find it inappropriate to do so, you may reward somebody in the middle of the year with a promotion and a slight bump in their pay. But generally speaking, the larger the company, the less frequently that happens because it needs to be formalized to set everybody's expectations. As we mentioned before, having set expectations means people feel a little bit safer in the environment, and people can be a lot more productive in the environment. Another important aspect of performance management and company culture is compensation. Compensation isn't necessarily directly related to performance management, but most often it is. Most of the time we do a compensation review at the same time that we do a performance review. But when it comes to compensation, you can choose whether to pay people the minimum wage or be at the top of the wage scale. You can choose whether you have just a salary or an hourly wage, or whether you combine salaries and bonuses and commissions and even equity compensation as part of the equity plan or part of the compensation plan at a company. You can also deliver spot bonuses. I'm a big fan, by the way, of spot bonuses, especially at larger companies. To every once in a while give somebody a $100 gift certificate or a $250 bonus, because it sends the message that to everybody at the company that you too could get a spot bonus for superior performance. And I think it raises the energy and raises the performance of a company a little bit. Other forms of compensation may involve physical products like company computers and printers and cell phones that become part of the compensation plan of a company as well. So you need to check with your company and find out, check in with yourself, check in with your management, and find out what their policies and procedures are around compensation, because that forms a very large aspect, an important aspect of the company culture. The company culture can also include benefits. You may include actually no benefits or incredible benefits of your company. You may include health benefits. If you have a company with more than 50 employees, when you hit that 51st employee, you're required to have health insurance for all of your people who work at the company, and do it in a very consistent manner. In between, one employee and 50 employees, it is an option, but people do need to be covered in some way, and there are governmental programs that will help cover people if you at the company doesn't do not provide that benefit. And like we say, benefits can be incredible. They can include vision and dental insurance. You can offer a 401k program with a match. And many companies here in Silicon Valley, they offer a lot of meals and snacks and drinks. I remember at companies when I was working there, it was a pretty big deal for them to offer, they had a vending machine in the break room, which meant that the company itself, wasn't offering sodas and snacks, to their employees. In fact, they were actually making money off of their employees' purchases of products through the vending machines. But at other companies, we offer free coffee. And here in Silicon Valley, my goodness, they offer free breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They do up to 20 different meals every single day. They have refrigerators stocked full of soft drinks and iced teas and other beverages. They do a lot here where we are to really take care of the employees. It's become kind of a competitive environment. If you want to compete with Google or Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, you need to make sure that you're feeding your people, 3 meals a day. I remember going into a Google cafeteria when one of my kids worked there, and people were bringing in their wives and their kids and everybody to come into the Google cafeteria and eat free, every single day. It's just part of their company culture, the family culture where they fed everybody. It was very, very interesting. Another aspect of company culture is conflict management. How do you deal with the really tough stuff? How do you have those really tough conversations and address those really difficult issues? You can have a formal or an informal conflict management thing in place. My favorite one, by the way, is one that I created, and that's the UCR and UCD system. UCR stands for saying that, hey, I'm uncomfortable about this and I'm concerned about that, and this is my request for you. And the UCD is very similar to that. It says, I'm uncomfortable about this, I'm concerned about that, and this is what we're going to do. So some examples of that. Say, hey, Joe, I'm uncomfortable with the way that you're showing up late every day. I'm concerned that you're not contributing as much as you should for the salaries you're getting paid. And more importantly, I'm concerned about the message that it's sending to other people that you really don't care about, company policies and guidelines and being here on time. So my request to you is that you show up, that you really pay attention to the clock and try to get here 5 minutes early every day. It's a good way of handling a conflicting situation with that UCR or UCD system. Another favorite of mine, and one that I recommend to a lot of clients, is the compassionate communications protocol that was created by Marshall Rosenberg. That's also, by the way, called nonviolent communication, although I prefer the name compassionate communication. It's a simple 4-step process that allows people to have conversations about anything. So I encourage you to look that up if you could find that at your company you have some tough conversations that you need to make and need to have, but you're not quite sure about how to do that. Some companies don't have very much conflict at all. Other companies may have some real anger management issues, and that kind of starts at the top. I find that if the CEO has rageaholic tendencies or temperamental issues or anger management issues, that it cascades throughout the entire organization. So once again, you at the top of the company, if you want to have a company where they're arguing all the time and there's a lot of infighting and bickering and lack of support and cynicism and sarcasm and critical conversations about each other's performance, then you're the one that can make that happen. And you're the one that can make that not happen too, by the way that you talk to other people, by the way that you handle conflict, by the way that you manage yourself and really exhibit self-awareness will really facilitate emotional intelligence throughout your entire organization. All of these things together, these 8 things together, form the energy signature of the company, form the company culture, so to speak. Whether it's relaxed or intense, whether it's informal or formal, whether it's friendly or it's hostile, whether it's collaborative or competitive, whether it's authentic or superficial, or whether you have a workforce of family, or whether you have a workforce of strangers that just bicker with each other all the time. Here's the how-to. Here's how we actually define and manage the company culture. And there are 3 specific ways in which you can take steps into defining and managing the culture at your company. You can have a top-down or a bottom-up approach, and you can have a bottom. In the bottom-up, there's some examples like Zappos, and in the top-down, we have approaches like financial services. For example, with a bottom-up approach, if you read the book Delivering Happiness, and we did an office hours presentation on that, you'll see that the way that Zappos created their world-class company culture was bottom-up. They had people there that were inspired to create a world-class culture, and Tony Hsieh, the owner of Zappos, or the CEO of Zappos and primary owner of Zappos, allowed it to happen, encouraged it to happen, because he was very focused on customer experience, and he allowed the guidelines, their 10 guiding principles at Zappos, to actually be formed by the employees of the company and then blessed by the management. However, at other companies, you can't let that happen. If you're in the financial services industry, every single word that you say to your clients, every piece of correspondence that goes out the door via email or via physical mail has to be approved by top management. They cannot implement a company culture that is bottom up, because the people at the bottom don't know the legal requirements around the communication that's necessary in the financial services industry. So there are a lot of legal requirements, and if you find yourself a CEO or an executive at a financial services firm, you know what I'm talking about. You really do have to implement a culture from the very top that adheres to the regulations of the financial services industry. Much different than an environment where we're primarily selling shoes at Zappos. Not many government regulations around the selling of shoes. And here are the steps that you can take. First of all, determine your approach, whether you're going to do a top-down approach, a bottom-up approach, or a collaborative approach. With a top-down approach, you form your team, you go through, and this is the executives of the company because it is top-down. You go through the 8 elements of company culture and review your current status, and then set your vision and intention for each one of those elements, and then you announce it to your company. This is the way we're going to do things. This is the way the senior manager of the company has determined is the best way for this company to run, and this is what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to manage meetings. Here's how we're going to do performance reviews. Here's how we're going to do compensation reviews. Here's what our dress code is going to be, etc. You define your company culture across each one of these elements, and then you tell the people the way it's going to be. And of course, you as executives of the company make sure that you are walking the talk every single day. Conversely, you can do the Zappos approach, the bottom-up approach, and that you get your team to nominate members of the culture committee. You say, hey, we want to do a little work here on the company culture. Who do you think should be a member of that committee? And they will vote on members of the committee. And then you do some very basic training to that community on the elements of the culture, and then you just stand back and let them work their magic. And you, as the executives, unless they do something absolutely insane, you let them do their work, because there's tremendous amount of gain to be had by letting the people at the company, create, to clarify the company culture at your company, because then they will really feel bought into that process. Because it wasn't top down. It wasn't something that somebody told them they had to do. It was something they chose to do. It was something they decided to do. And generally speaking, people are much more likely to follow a process and a procedure and a plan if they helped create that process, that procedure, that plan. So I'm a big fan of the bottom-up approach. I'm also a fan of the collaborative approach, which is a blend between the two. You take the bottom-up approach and you add executives to the team, but you do have to be very, very careful about that, because the executives have to be listeners and collaborators. They can't pull the trump card by saying, hey, I'm your boss and this is the way it's going to be. I really think that if executives are going to be in the process for defining the company culture, that they have to listen about 80% of the time and just talk, a very small amount of time. I think that the best company culture is driven from the bottom up at the company, with the guidance and of the executive teams, especially when there's any sort of regulated industry that's involved. So here's the bottom line. You get to define your company culture using the process that's just right for you. And as the CEO, you are the role model for your company culture. So I strongly encourage you to take 100% responsibility for it and recognize that you have a company culture, whether you have formally defined it or not. Recognize that you are the role model for your company culture. And I encourage you to think about that, because there are things that you can do to increase the teamwork, to increase the morale by further defining and focusing on your company culture. And our agenda for today has been, we talked about the importance of culture, we talked about what is the company culture, and we talked about the 8 different elements of company culture and the all-important energy signature of the company that those 8 elements form. And we talked a little bit about how to define and manage your company culture from the bottom up or the top down, and summed it up to the bottom line. So here's your homework and your exercise. Think about the people that you want to attract and keep at your company. Think about the way that you want your teams to work with each other, how you want them to behave, what you want their attitudes to be, what you want their behaviors to be, their actions to be, so that you can begin to fill out your company culture worksheet. And there is, by the way, associated with this office hours presentation, a company culture worksheet that will be in our tribal portal. For those of you who may listen to the recording, you do need to become members of our office hours community of the Paul Hoyt tribe so that you can download this worksheet. But we encourage you to download the worksheet and then follow it and focus on the energy signature of your company. And as always, if you need support with this, get coaching and support. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're having issues with HR, you make sure that you get an HR consultant on your team so that you're adhering to the laws in your particular state. That's very important to do. We do have several different related office hours presentations if you'd like to follow up and learn a little bit more about this subject. Office hours number 45 was on tribal leadership. Office hours 50 was on delivering happiness, which is the story of Zappos. And that book was written by Tony Hsieh, one of my very favorite office hours presentations. In office hours 52, we talked about handling upset customers, which is a big part of your company culture. Office hours 56, we talked about the book Switch by Chip and Dan Heath on how to change when change is hard. And office hours 91, we talked about emotional intelligence. So there's a lot of other office hours presentations that you may want to take advantage of in order to really understand your company culture, how to implement change, how to implement it at your business. We're going to go into open Q&A and coaching in just a minute, where we're going to invite you to make comments and ask questions on the subject matter of the day first, and then any other issues that you might want to talk about. We really want you to tell us what your biggest takeaways are and the insights from today's presentation, and then tell us what you're going to focus on. Here at the Hoyt Management Group, we offer world-class support for small businesses on 3 different levels. First of all, we're happy to teach you and educate you on how to do things for yourself. We're really happy about rolling up our sleeves and doing things with you, like creating strategic plans, business plans, financial models, sales scripts, etc. And in many cases, we'll do some things for you as well, such as helping you implement a back-end system or to do CFO work and COO work too. So I invite you, if you have any need at all at your business, you'll find us great people to work with. Please reach out and let us know how we can support you in accomplishing and achieving your goals. Next week, we'll have office hours number 113. I'm not sure what the topic is going to be. If you would like to suggest topics for us, then go to paulsurvey.com and fill that out. And in between now and the time that we meet again, do your homework. And in between now and the time that we meet again, I invite you to attend our quarterly planning workshop, which is this Saturday, March the 19th. We're going to have 4 different sections to that. We're going to review some very critical concepts in business success is section 1. In section 2, we're going to talk about your vision. Section 3, your status. And section 4, give you the time and the tools necessary to create your plan for Q2. That's right, Q1 is coming to an end here. We only have a couple of weeks left in Q1, so it's not too early to be thinking about how you want to revise your annual plans for Q2. So I strongly encourage you to reserve your seat today. Watch your emails coming out to you about how to do that. We already have a very good number of folks coming on to our call this Saturday from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to have our quarterly planning workshop. And this, by the way, is the last free one that we're going to be doing. From here on out, there's going to be a small fee attached to the quarterly planning workshop. So I invite you to get into this last free one so that you'll know how valuable it is, and you'll be eager to participate in these every single quarter. With that, let's go into open Q&A and coaching. Again, as we said, first comments and questions on the topic of the day, and then any other issues that you might have. My contact information is there. I encourage you to reach out to me if there's any way that we can support you in defining your vision for your company, in creating the plans, the step-by-step plans to help you get from where you are to where you want to be, and in executing those plans. With that, Stephanie, any comments and questions on the subject matter of today?
Yes, we do. We'll get started with the first question.
Awesome.
Our senior tech guy is a bit of a jerk. How do I handle him?
Well, and I'm going to assume you're talking from the perspective of the CEO, not the perspective of somebody that, reports to the guy or has to work with the guy. So we'll answer it from the perspective of you're the owner of the business or you're the CEO of the business. And I think it's really all about emotional intelligence, and it's about emotional intelligence training. You may want to have one-on-one conversations with the gentleman and suggest that, they may want to involve an emotional intelligence training, or you may want to do it, in a less direct manner, which would be to get emotional intelligence training for everybody at your company. You might take that into defining the company culture as well. They're not likely to be, if the guy's a jerk, it's not likely going to be a welcome member of the company culture committee. But they've got to understand that. They got to at least adhere to the process. I had an occasion where I worked at a company to where one of the senior tech guys was a bit of a jerk, and unfortunately, the gentleman had a slight emotional and mental disorder. I think they were a little bit autistic. I know that they had antisocial personality disorder. I know that they were a bit of a sociopath in the sense that they openly had disdain for anybody, that wasn't them, frankly. They were arrogant, brutal to deal with, and there wasn't anything that you could do about it. Because some people can change, and honestly, some people can't change. There are people out there that have, emotional and mental disorders that prevent them from being a nice person, prevent them from changing. I always say that personality transplants take a long time, but sometimes personality transplants are just impossible. I encourage you to try, though. If you're the CEO and the owner of the company, try by having those tough conversations with them. Try by getting them to have structured conversations with other people through either the UCD, UCR method that we talked about earlier, or through Marshall Rosenberg's, 4-part compassionate communication, nonviolent communication protocol, and see how they respond to that. You may be very surprised that they just never knew how to talk to other people before. They never knew that their attitudes and their actions and behaviors were causing other people problems, and they may be open to having stronger bonding relationships with other people. That's certainly my wish for you. If it finds out that they're not open to that, if you find out that they're incapable for that, that they're just not going to change, that they can't change in some way, then you have to make a tough choice. And the tough choice is to isolate them completely from everybody else, or to give them the invitation to be excellent elsewhere, because their presence is too damaging to your company culture, and it outweighs their technical genius or their technical competence. I hope that's not the case at your company. I hope they are able to turn their behavior around, and it was just a matter of somebody caring enough about them to have the conversation with them. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that that's the case at your particular company. Next question or comment, Stephanie.
I just have a little comment. You said something that's really, I think, so important, in that we never really know what's going on in other people's lives. They could have some serious health problems, or somebody in their family has health problems, or who knows the stuff that's going on in people's lives that can turn us into not the best that we want to be at any one particular time. So I think that's just so important that we take the time to really find out as a CEO that, you know, that's our job, to help support them in whatever we can do.
That's a great comment.
Okay, moving on.
Thank you.
I'm having challenges with walking the talk. How do I develop more personal consistency?
That's kind of the flip side of the question that we just kind of answered, which is, in one case, you are, having a person at your company who was inconsistent with, company culture. But now that we have one of our CEOs volunteering that they themselves might have problems walking the talk, and the answer is very much the same. It's about emotional intelligence. I encourage you, if you haven't done it already, watch Office Hours 91 on emotional intelligence and the 4 parts of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management, and find out how you can, improve in those areas. If you're having problems walking the talk, then it's usually about self-management. And there are things that you can do with self-management to lower your baseline anxiety, to really have effective control measures in place so that you don't blow up at people and you don't yell at people, that you're able to walk the talk a little bit more, taking a time out when you need to, understanding when your blood pressure is rising and you're at risk of doing something that you would regret later on down the road. So I encourage you to listen to the Emotional Intelligence Office Hours presentation and give us a call if there's something that we can do to help you as well. You may find that some of our structured conversation techniques and some of the other techniques around emotional intelligence will help you dramatically when it comes to being able to walk the talk at your company. So I look forward to talking with you about that.
Amen.
Stephanie, next. Yeah, amen.
I love that. And this one kind of goes off of that as well.
Yep.
Meetings at our company, she says, are terrible. They're too long and unfocused. How do I get them to change?
It's really tough to change the meeting culture unless you're running the meetings. If you're running the meetings, or you can just get yourself in the position of running the meetings, then I think you've got an opportunity to impact company culture by running the meetings in a way that makes sense to you. You can start meetings where they're stand-up meetings for 15 minutes only. You can start having a formal agenda that's printed out and handed to everybody when they walk into the meeting. You can begin the process of taking meeting notes and publishing the minutes to the meetings, every single meeting that you have. And maybe by being a role model for good meeting culture, that you can begin to impact change at your company. You can of course have conversations with your supervisors and with other people at the company and see if they agree with you that the meetings are just terrible, or whether they have given up and decided there's nothing you can do about meeting culture at your company. But I think generally speaking, there's always something that you can do to at least gain the personal satisfaction of running the meetings that you run in a way that makes sense to you. I worked with a client once that had a company culture to where every manager's company calendar was available for anybody else to go and schedule that person into a meeting. And it wasn't at all unusual for a company manager to be in meetings from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. and then be required to do their own work after that. That people, they'd be double booked and triple booked and sometimes quadruple booked into meetings. It was terrible, terrible company culture. So I encourage you not to do that, but rather take the opportunity that you have to be a role model for your company by implementing really good practices, best practices in the area of meeting management. Hopefully that helps. Stephanie, another question or comment?
I hate the uniform that I have to wear. What can I do about that?
The uniform that you have to wear. Have I ever had to wear a uniform? I think so, way long ago. I mean, by way long ago, we're talking like 45 years ago. if you don't count the suit and tie that was required at EDS, um, which was more or less a uniform too. But other companies like fast food chains or some department stores require you to wear a particular uniform, typically a polo shirt that's got a logo on it of some kind. And if you don't like the uniform that you're being forced to wear, as always, I encourage you to have a conversation with your supervisor if you can do anything about it. Maybe if you're positive enough and you're energetic enough that you can get the company to revisit their uniform policy and maybe even redesign their uniforms, I would caution you that that typically costs a lot of money. So it's not something that companies do, just without thinking about it. It does require a budget, especially in larger companies where you may have, a dozen or hundreds of employees that are wearing the particular uniform of the company. But I think my biggest piece of advice is that get to the point to where your happiness, your personal happiness, doesn't depend on the uniform that you're wearing. Yeah, the shirt may not be flattering, or the slacks may not be what you want them to be, but get yourself to the point to where you realize that you can carry around your own sunshine. That shirt or that pair of pants or that whatever they're asking you to wear does not prevent you from being a happy, energetic, positive person. That if you say that, I hate this uniform, just don't get to the point to where you say, I can't be happy when I am wearing this. Because when you say that, you are putting up an artificial barrier in between yourself and your own peace of mind. You're putting up a roadblock in between yourself and your own happiness. And that's something that you don't have to do. You have the power to say, I'm independent of that. You have the power to say, I don't like this, but I'm going to be happy regardless and in spite of. And in fact, when you really get to the best places, you can say, I'm going to let this ugly uniform remind me of the power that I have to carry around my own sunshine, to be happy in spite of this. And then it becomes something that's not negative or something that puts you into the shadows. It can actually become the catalyst for your really, really great attitude and your really great sense of empowerment and the reminder of the greatness that you have within yourself and your ability to exercise that every single day. Hopefully that's inspiring to you, because I see the greatness that everybody has within them and the power that they have to make good choices and the power that they have to let that stuff which would normally take them into the shadows just remind them of the strength and the greatness and the happiness that they have within themselves. Hopefully that was helpful. Stephanie, any other comments or questions?
Just one comment. I'm so grateful and blessed to be working with you, Tootsie. Moving on.
Thank you.
Have you ever worked in a toxic culture? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I have, and it got me down for a long time until it took me years and years to get out of that toxic culture. I was at one of the companies, which shall remain nameless, that I worked at earlier on in my career, had, my boss was the worst boss that I've ever worked for. And he created a very toxic culture. Mostly what he did was walk around and criticize other people and offered no value at all, as far as I could ever tell. Never gave me any good advice, never gave anybody that worked for him any good advice. He was the CFO of the company. He was a very strange and cantankerous and objectionable person in every way, from physical appearance to personal hygiene to the way that he treated everybody who worked for him. And it took me a number of years to realize the benefit of having been in that toxic environment. The benefit was, of course, is that I had an anti-role model. I knew exactly what I did not want to do and exactly the person I did not want to be. He in his own way, inspired me to become the best person that I could be by showing me, the impact of not being a very nice person and not being a good boss. He was a terrible boss. And by the way, because he was a terrible boss, was, I guess, in his own way, one of the best teachers that I ever had, because I was bound and determined that I would never be that way, that I would never treat my people that way. And oh, by the way, unfortunately, he did get his comeuppance, because when the company started experiencing a decline in revenues, the CEO of the company reached out to everybody in senior management and said, let us know who we should be getting rid of. Let us know who's not contributing well to the attitude and the morale at the company. Let us know who's not contributing well in terms of their productivity. And I wasn't the only person who walked into the CEO's office and said, we should get rid of this dude. And, 6 weeks or so after they made that call, even though he was the company's CFO and had been at the company for 25 years, he was let go. And he was let go primarily because of the toxic environment that he had created, and the way that everybody, just flat didn't want to be around him anymore. So he was a role model for me in terms of helping me understand the person that I wanted to be. And he was a good example of karma, how what goes around comes around. And when you put out enough bad energy, negative energy, shadow energy towards other people, they will find a way to step into their power and recommend that something nasty happens to you. So that was the one company where I had the worst toxic energy among any of the companies that I've dealt with. And we've got like just 1 minute before the top of the hour. I don't know if you have any more comments or questions, Stephanie, but we're getting close to wrapping it up for today. What do you got?
One more question.
Yeah.
What happened to the beard?
Oh, what happened to the beard? For those of you who are online and can see, you can't see it on the recording because the webcam is not being recorded. I shaved my beard. So this is the first time in the last 4.5 years that I've had a clean shaven face. I went to a really fantastic workshop last week, which is why we didn't have the office hours presentation last Monday. And universally, the people at that workshop recommended that I lose the beard. So in addition to being a coach, I am also coachable. And when everybody in the room unanimously agrees that I should do something, even if it scares me just a little bit and it even causes me to gulp just a little bit, I go forth and do it. So a week ago today, I got up in the morning and shaved off my beard of 4.5 years. So now I got a clean shaven baby face, and I don't look anywhere close to being as old and as experienced as I really am. But heck, I don't care. I'm okay with presenting myself as being a young man these days. So thanks for asking. And I encourage each and every one of you that if you got everybody on your team telling you that, hey, you need to do something, then you follow my lead and you do it. You will be happy that you did. They will be happy that you did. And you'll have a much better company culture as a result of that, if you in fact are the role model for somebody that's coachable. So thanks for that last question, Stephanie. I appreciate it. And for those of you listening, I really appreciate you tuning in, you watching us online or listening to this recording. I really appreciate your kind attendance here as we talk about it. Every time we start one of these, we are committed to doing everything that we can to increase the survival rate, accelerate the growth rate, and reduce the struggle rate of businesses in America. We encourage you to watch many of our office hours presentations, and of course, give us a call. If there's anything that we can do to help you define your growth strategies and help you execute those strategies so that you can build the business of your dreams, we'd love to have the opportunity to support you in doing that. And until we meet again, this is Paul Hoyt and Stephanie May wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.